My name is Nancy Roberts, and I'm an economics professor at Arizona State University. Today, the topic we're going to discuss is demand, because demand and supply analysis is really the heart of our economic model. And so, the first thing we want to do is understand what demand is and how we construct it and the changes in demand. So, demand is defined as what consumers are willing and able to purchase in a given time period at different prices. So the law of demand says that as price increases, ceteris paribus means everything else held constant. As price increases, ceteris paribus, quantity demanded decreases. And so let's think about this from a consumer's perspective. The consumer is going to give up some of their resources, some of their money to purchase. And so the consumer wants to maximize their satisfaction or their happiness or their utility given the money they have to give up. And so let's construct a demand schedule. Let's just say the demand for ice cream cones. So I'm going to put up a demand schedule which will illustrate different prices and different quantities that a consumer would be willing and able to purchase of ice cream cones. So here's my demand schedule. Well, first let me write the law of demand. As price increases, ceteris paribus, that means everything else held constant. As price increases, ceteris paribus, quantity demanded decreases. So let me just construct a demand schedule here, a hypothetical demand schedule. I'm going to put price here, and I'm going to put quantity demanded there. And remember, this is ice cream cones. So if the price is $3 per cone, let's just say I'm not buying any, that's too much, $3. If the price is $2.50 per cone, let's just say that we would buy 2 cones per week if the price is $2.50 a cone. If it's $2 a cone, let's just say we buy 4 a week. And I'm just going to continue with this hypothetical demand schedule. Let's say at $1.50 we'd buy 6, at $1 we'd buy 8. At 50 cents a cone, we'd buy 10 cones per week, and if we were giving them away, if the price were 0, we'd eat 12 a week. And so this is what we call a demand schedule. And as you can see, as the price increases, everything else held constant, as the price decreases from $3 to free, the quantity demanded increases. Or you can say, as price increases, ceteris paribus, the quantity demanded decreases. Either way, you can look at it either way. And so the next thing we want to do is graph this. Make a graph of this, a picture of this. And so we'll put price on this axis. And we'll put ice cream cones on here. Ice cream cones. And if the price is $3, we're going to sell none, 0. If the price is $1.50, we would sell 6. 2, 4, 6. We'd sell 6 if the price were $1.50. If the price were 0, if it were free, we're giving them away, 8, 10, 12. We could sell 12. So here's 3 points on my demand curve. This is a linear demand curve. In reality, demand curves are not linear, but in a principles class, we're going to stick to linear demand curves because the arithmetic is much easier, and it doesn't invalidate the analysis at all. So I basically identified 3 points. I'll just call this point A, and I've put $1.50 as point B, and I've put this one as C. So this is point A, this is point B, this is point C, and there's my demand curve. The demand is what we call the consumer phenomenon. This demand schedule, which gives us this demand curve, is based on consumers. It's not based on producers. It's not the supply phenomenon. This is the consumer phenomenon. This doesn't mean that these ice cream cones are available. It means this is what consumers are willing and able to purchase in a given time period, ceteris paribus. And so we need to talk about what we mean by quantity demanded. If we move from A to B on this demand schedule, we call that an increase in quantity demanded. Quantity demanded increases from 0 to 6. That's not an increase in demand. It's an increase in quantity demanded. Anytime price changes, which is what happened here, price changed from $3 to $1.50, then quantity demanded changes. Changes in demand are something entirely different, which we will discuss in a minute, but this is a change in quantity demanded. Movement from C to B is also a change in quantity demanded, and in fact it's a decrease in quantity demanded. And the reason quantity demanded decreased was because price increased. So changes in price don't change the demand curve, they change the quantity demanded. So when price changes, we move along a demand curve, and that's called a change in quantity demanded. When we listed these ceteris paribus, when we listed this comment that as price increases, ceteris paribus, quantity demanded decreases, what we're talking about is that there are other things that affect the demand for ice cream cones. They are what we call the ceteris paribus variables, or the determinants of demand. And so when we drew this demand curve and when we put up this demand schedule, we held a whole bunch of things constant. And so what we need to do are look at what are those determinants of demand, or what are those ceteris paribus variables that we held constant when we constructed this demand curve. And there are several of them, and when these things change, our demand curve changes. So let's list our determinants. The first one is income. If income changes, demand changes. It changes in two ways. If the good is what we call a normal good, which most goods are normal goods, if the good is a normal good, what it says is if income increases, demand will increase. And so we can think of it this way. When we said this is how many ice cream cones you will buy at these different prices, we know how much your income is. But what if your income doubles? You have a whole lot more money now. Well, if an ice cream cone costs $3, at your lower income you wouldn't buy any, but now you might buy some. So this would be an increase at $3. At $2 you only would have bought 4, but now that you have more money, you might buy more. So we end up with a whole new demand curve. That's for normal goods. We have some things which are called inferior goods as well, which do just the opposite. You can think of chicken wings as an inferior. No, chicken necks. How about chicken necks? You can go to the grocery store and buy a package of chicken necks. And they're very, very cheap, and they're a little bit of protein, and so you're very poor, so you buy chicken necks as protein. Your income goes up. And so instead of buying more chicken necks, you actually switch out of chicken necks into chicken wings because there's more meat on them. And so that we would call chicken necks an inferior good because the demand decreases when income increases. So income is a shifter, a determinant, a ceteris paribus variable. Another one would be population. Of course, if population increases, then the number of ice cream cones we sell would increase. A third one is if there is a change in individuals, consumers' tastes or preferences. Tastes or preferences. And for example, maybe people decide eating ice cream makes me fat, and so America gets on a let's get fit, kick, and so we decide we're not going to eat ice cream anymore because we're tired of being fat. And so our tastes and preferences for ice cream change. We don't want to be fat anymore. And so in that case, what we would see is a decrease in demand because we don't buy as much anymore because our tastes for ice cream have changed. A last element of these ceteris paribus variables would be if there is a change in the price, not a change in the price of ice cream cones, but a change in the price of a good that's related to ice cream cones. Related either as a substitute or a complement. Now, for ice cream cones, we can think of a substitute as yogurt. Yogurt is a substitute. Frozen yogurt is a substitute for ice cream. Let's say that the price of frozen yogurt decreases. If the price of frozen yogurt decreases, and these people who are buying these ice cream cones see frozen yogurt as a substitute for ice cream, what happens is they will say, wow, I like frozen yogurt. It's now cheaper than it was before. So in fact, I'm going to switch out of ice cream cones and start buying frozen yogurt. Not completely, not everybody, but some will. And so what will happen is, I'll draw it in a different color here, instead of this being the demand for ice cream cones, now that frozen yogurt has decreased in price and we consider it a substitute, here's what will happen to the demand for ice cream because people will switch out of ice cream and into frozen yogurt. And so this is what we call demand schedule, demand graph, and these are the determinants, these ceteris paribus variables, that are held constant when we drew this demand curve. If we allow these things to change, then this demand curve is going to change. So you have to be very careful to make the distinction between a change in quantity demanded and a change in demand. A change in quantity demanded moves you along the demand curve, and it's caused by one and only one thing, and that's a change in price. A change in demand means the whole curve picks up and moves. It increases, it decreases, and the reason a demand curve would change is because one of these variables have changed that we held constant when we drew this. Later on, we're going to discuss supply.